Here I am. Here is me. By myself. Here is my hand. Here is my face. My hair. My heart. Here is my heart. Somewhere there. Here I am. Me. Me? Where is me? What is me? What was my life all about? Do I still have time to do something about my life? I really don't know.
Some called him the godfather of underground
Filmmaker
film.
Jonas Mekas.
That's Jonas Mekas.
My guest tonight is Jonas Mekas, who was first of all a poet before he was a filmmaker.
I was a farmer before I was a filmmaker.
His name is Jonas Mekas, a man who, I think more than almost anybody in the world, epitomizes the meaning and significance of independent filmmaking. I'm delighted to have you here.
I'm happy to be here on this autumn day.
Jonas Mekas has remained at the forefront of American independent filmmaking for more than half a century.
Author, critic, a film distributor, and a movie maker whose influence extends far beyond his adopted home.
Jonas Mekas was the most exciting person. I mean, he just got excited about anything.
Jonas became a social center, as well as in making his own films and writing his own poetry.
I began keeping film diaries. Immediately after I came to this country, the dominant form of my life became the diary. So I'm just filming moments of life. I do not know what makes me do it, but I have to do it. I just have to do it. I cannot sleep. I cannot sleep. What's 4? Oh boy. I don't know what I'm going to do tonight. Boxes, my life is boxed. I'm boxed myself into, I don't know where I am. It's a mess. As I'm slowly moving to my editing room. Some old footage, fading footage. My friends, here I am, trying to remember it all. Footage I took with my first Bolex. But the dust of time is falling on all of it. My brother Adolphus. Some of the details are already deep under the dust of time. Adolphus and I came here from post-war Europe, full of doubts about civilization, all the affairs of this world. We loved you, world, but you did lousy things to us. We are displaced persons, and the world is full of us. This was recorded by someone in exile. I was so lonely when I came that this city saved my sanity. The first years here, we embraced New York, and the city embraced us. We did not miss a single theater performance, a single film that opened, a single ballet performance, music. We were hungry, thirsty for art. It's raining in New York on this November day. My camera is getting wet, but it doesn't matter. Orchard Street. I lived here. I lived here for 2 years. Walking, always walking. That is the life of a displaced person, ADP, in a strange place. Grass, clinging to a block of cement, trying to live in a place where life seems to be totally impossible. And there, behind that bridge, it's Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I spent 2 years of my life there too. There is a point somewhere where you don't know anymore where your home really is. I am still at that point. I think my real home is cinema.
Jonas and Adolphus Mekas, born in Lithuania, came to the U.S., and the first thing they did was they bought a 16mm Bolex camera.
Neither myself nor my brother spoke English. We thought maybe we can use a camera and speak with images.
Jonas carried his camera everywhere. I don't think I ever saw Jonas without a camera.
We thought we will get into Hollywood and make big movies there, but meanwhile we have to practice and master what the camera can do, all the tricks.
Very soon, it was cinema that was our lives, our minds, our hearts. And we wished that we would have some kind of platform to exchange ideas. France had Cahiers du Cinéma. England had Sight and Sound. In the United States, nothing. So we said let's do it. By December '54, we brought out the first issue.
For Film Culture magazine, I wrote a piece about the man who shot Liberty Valance, John Ford's film. I think I made $25, which got me through a couple of dates. The first play I directed off-Broadway, Jonas came to see it with his brother, Adolphus, and that's where we met. And he was very kind and very encouraging me to make movies, which I ended up doing. But for Film Culture, yeah, I wrote for them a few times.
After you started Film Culture, you got into being the first film critic for the Village Voice, writing about commercial cinema. But your writing now, it is primarily a criticism of the avant-garde.
It happened so not by our choice, but I see great beauty, excitement there, and nobody's writing about them. Nobody's bringing these films to the readers, viewers' attention, and that I consider is a crime. So it's my duty to bring those films to the attention of the people.
Jonas Mekas was my savior. Somehow I knew about the Village Voice, and I got it. And I used to read Jonas's column, Movie Journal, and he told me what underground movies were. And that's how I learned about Warhol and Kenneth Anger and the Kuchar brothers and all those kind of movies. So I became kind of obsessed by them. And I would sneak away on the Greyhound bus to New York and see the underground movies that Jonas wrote about. That's how I got my film education.
Before I was a film student, I just live every week to read Jonas's column in the Village Voice because it opened up a whole new world of what cinema could be. The word movie didn't mean just one thing anymore to the younger generation. You have lighter equipment, so you could actually start making your own films.
Underground movies were doing it a completely different way, turning your nose up at Hollywood, technique and billion-dollar budgets and everything.
You can step out in the street with your characters. If all your expenses were subway fare and film, you could somehow work. You didn't eat so good, but you could work.
And that Jonas valued the work was amazing. He couldn't have been more generous.
For the first time in the last 10 years, I did not feel alone in America. Like I was slowly becoming a part of it. There was a moment when I forgot my home. We wrote. We did a lot of writing. With coffee, eating our stomachs. We started shooting our first film. It was exciting. Everything was new.
I was a teenager reading Jonas's movie journal in the Village Voice, and I went to Cinema 16, where mixed in with narrative films and science films and pornography were these other films. And that's when I first saw Maya Deren. And Stan Brakhage. And I thought, this is the most ridiculous stuff I've ever seen. And then I saw Jonas's Guns of the Trees. And I never wanted to go back to Cinema 16 after that because it was the most depressing thing that I'd ever seen.
Not everyone digs underground movies, but those who do can dig them here. This is The Bridge in New York, one of several small theaters around the country where underground films are shown. But what is an underground movie? The subject almost defies description.
Like any art, cinema has the narrative aspect and the poetic aspect. And the so-called underground filmmakers are exploring the poetic aspect of cinema.
Jonas was interested in freedom of expression with an emphasis on individuality, the personal, sometimes very private, that Hollywood will never make. And he saw that these films couldn't get distribution. So what did Jonas do? He started the Filmmakers Co-op.
The Filmmakers Cooperative distributed Mondo Trasho. That was the first real distributor I ever got. It was in the catalog, and they would pay $1 a minute, 90 minutes long. So I got $90 every time somebody rented it.
Anyone could deposit a film at the Filmmakers Cooperative, and it would be distributed if people asked for it. And how would people know to ask for it? Well, Jonas mentioned them in The Village Voice.
No one would have ever heard of those movies if not for Jonas.
He essentially wrote about the films that his friends were making. And the reason The Village Voice regarded this not as a conflict of interest for many years is that no one made any money. When I started working at the co-op, it was at 414 Park Avenue South. And Jonas lived in the back.
Filmmakers Cooperative was a period of like 4 years. I don't know how I slept because it was always busy, that place. Most of the time I slept, and then my moviola, there was no other room. Every evening we had screenings, filmmakers bringing their footage, people gathering and showing their work. You could meet everybody there, from Robert Frank, Allen Ginsberg, Salvador Dali. They all came to the screenings.
It was at those screenings that I met Barbara Rubin, Harry Smith, Jack Smith, and Warhol.
Andy was there in my loft, sitting on the floor, watching movies. Already several months, but I did not know it was Andy. That was Andy's film school.
Jonas certainly gave Andy the idea of making films. And for a period of time, Warhol pretty much put away painting in favor of making films. They were the most important thing that Warhol was doing.
But this evening, as I was eating my supper, it came to me that Andy's constant audio taping, constant in the later years videotaping, came from shyness. A shy person is not able 100% to connect with the people and remains always a little bit on the side, a watcher, a looker, a gazer, because that is like one's only protection. It is the chain that keeps you attached to the people around you. That is what I have been thinking. As I think about Andy. To you.
There were two kinds of underground movies. There was the real arty kind, like Stan Brakhage and M. Schwiller. I didn't like them so much then. I like them now and realized that Jonas was completely right about that school, too. But then there was the Warhol, Kenneth Anger, Kuchar, the ones I liked, really, that always had nudity and gay people and drugs.
You know, when people think of the 60s, they think of just this counterculture, anything goes, nudity, sex. But actually, the censorship then was terrible.
I'll never forget, I went to a forbidden screening, an illegal screening of a banned film at Loft in the Village. And Mekas introduced it. It was Kenneth Anger's Scorpio Rising. It was certainly a life changer for me.
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more.
If you look at the history of queer film, and you look at the history of avant-garde film, they are twined around each other. And that was a big deal for Jonas, who began writing in the Village Voice some very homophobic pieces. And then at a certain point, he looked at Jack Smith's work and he realized that Jack was making great film and great art, and something changed profoundly in Jonas.
During the summer of '64, the series of arrests were taking place under the pretext of obscenity.
We decided that they have no right to tell us how to make our movies or what to show. We went ahead and we showed everything without submitting to the censors.
Jonas booked the screening with Flaming Creatures. I was the manager of the theater, and Flo was taking tickets. Cops came out of nowhere. I was arrested, Flo was arrested, Jonas was arrested, and was incredibly courageous, talking to the cops, telling them how stupid they were. I thought he was gonna get us killed, or at least we were gonna leave there without teeth. I was impressed.
I don't think anyone was prepared to see the cops show up.
After this arrest, when everybody said I'm in trouble, I thought, okay, then I will make it worse.
A week after Flaming Creatures, Jonas arranged to screen Un Chant d'Amour.
He had smuggled the Genet semi-pornographic, or actually pornographic film, into the country, looking for trouble with the police.
Jonas said, it's not porn. Porn's in the eyes of the beholder. It's poetry.
Police were threatened by underground movies for some reason. They really believed that they were gonna, I don't know, do what? Make everybody go crazy and turn gay or what? I don't know what they thought. For Jonas, it made him a hero, a revolutionary. He introduced a new genre of rebellion in film that has never ended.
Jonas wanted to break down the barriers, storm the Bastille. He talked like that too. We have to take it down and break it down. And that was very encouraging at that time for all us young people that were just starting out.
There was so much dedication and solidarity of the whole community. And in the middle, there was Jonas Mekas. He was the prophet, the guiding, visionary spirit. He showed us the way and made us understand that there are no limits to the art of cinema.
We have all come here to tell the public that we are now taking over the entire universe.
What's important about the underground cinema that it's not important at all. Underground filmmakers are not taking themselves seriously. They're just playing, having a good time.
Jonas Mekas, the impresario. Jonas is the head of the Filmmakers Cooperative. He puts together movies and sends them around to Europe and America. Movies like Flaming Creatures and The Brig.
Now this will be another glorious day in the history of the United States Marine Corps.
The thing is that The Brig is a film of an actual performance of the living theater.
Yes, that was shot on stage. I walked into the middle of the play with the camera, with sound.
No more buying comes with danger. Is that clear?
Disrupted the whole situation as a new element. It was not an adaptation, filming of a play, but my instantaneous reaction to a production in long 10-minute takes. with the movement of the camera, the brutality of it was sort of created.
Are all my kiddies asleep?
The brig showed at the Venice Film Festival. They thought it was a real brig as opposed to the documentary of a theater production, but it did win a prize and it did put Jonas on the map, though still as some kind of curator. People didn't see Jonas as a filmmaker in his own right until Diaries, Notes, and Sketches, Walden.
I live. Therefore, I make films. I make films. Therefore, I live. I make home movies. Therefore, I live.
Walden was the first Jonas film that really moved me. It was like, wow, this is like its own form completely. Jonas was able to use the form of cinema in the way poets don't obey the laws of prose. They don't obey the laws or rules. They are there to abstract them.
Jonas's personal cinema represented an entire vocabulary of symbols and signifiers, and there was no goal. Diaristic, memoirist, documentarian, through the eyes of a poet.
Around 1961, looking back, I realized that the footage I've shot with my first two Bolexes felt like a diary documenting certain aspects of my life. Diaries, notes, and sketches, this footage from 1964 to 68. I'm not documenting reality. That doesn't interest me, but I'm celebrating reality. I'm picking out certain bits and I film them in a way that they are like celebrations of life. Temperament, attitude, state of being, that feeling like in the air, pace, rhythm, movement, light, exposure, focus, intensity, how I feel as I'm looking at that detail. To catch reality as it happens now. That is how my diary form started.
Jonas was an expert at turning his journals and diaries into his art. Walden and Lost, Lost, Lost are two of my favorite films of not just of Jonas's, but two of my favorite films ever.
Lost, Lost, Lost stuck with me a great deal, particularly when he was filming the grass. You know? Like he was dancing around with his camera, fluidly in space, so ecstatically happy.
Jonas and images of Jonas with a Bolex camera reminded me of Woody Guthrie's guitar that he had, "This Machine Kills Fascists." That guitar was his way of delivering things, and Jonas's Bolex was equally iconic to me. This machine destroys preconceptions of what is filmmaking.
The camera to Jonas, it's like basketball to Michael Jordan or Jimi Hendrix playing the guitar, for Christ's sake, you know. It's just part of his body, coordinated so naturally, so fluidly. He was in his element. That's a very important thing to recognize. Because you know, Jonah as a person is super shy. Sometimes painfully so, especially when he's been caught in some kind of crowd.
Jonas was the oddest person to be at the center of so many different stratas of society. He was highly regarded in Park Avenue living rooms, in the homes of great art collectors.
He was omnipresent on the scene, and he always deflected accolades from himself to like, well, but did you see this? Did you hear about this?
He had a lot of access to people because people recognized Jonas's integrity, the purity.
He was telling the tales of his own life and the people he encountered, and some of those people happened to be, you know, Miles Davis or John and Yoko or all these different luminaries of the period.
Scrambled eggs?
Same as well.
Scrambled eggs. Yes, scrambled eggs.
Jonas doesn't have the same ambition. He doesn't really want to be that famous when you think about it. Whether he's hanging out with John Lennon and Yoko Ono, or following the cockroach, just trying to get across the street, he'd have the similar joy and attention being paid to those moments. There's no hierarchy between Yoko Ono, John Lennon, cockroach. He always talked about that glimpse of beauty in paradise. That was it. Being caught in the moment. Very important philosophy of life.
It's my nature now to record, to try to keep everything I'm passing through. I have lost too much. It's raining in Soho. And I have lots of time. I'm not in a hurry, really. I don't mind the puddles. And it would be strange to rush through the streets of New York after coming 7,000 miles from home, from Lithuania. It doesn't matter, 100 blocks one way or the other. I'm on Broadway, and Lithuania is 7,000 miles away.
Atminty man visą laiką toks jausmas, kad kai kalbasi tėvai, aš girdžiu Jono, Adolfo vardus. Jie sužinojo pirmasias žinutės, kai jau jie išvyko 44. Mus pasiekė, bobutę pasiekė, tai 55 metais. Taip, jau pradėjo rasti žinutės, kad ir jie patys pradėjo rašyti laiškus, kad galbūt atvyks į festivalį Maskvoj, kad jų filmai ten bus rodomi.
The editor of Pravda, propaganda newspaper of Russia, had seen the brig, and he thought it was a great anti-American film. And that it should be shown in Moscow Film Festival. And I said, I will come. But at the same time, I would like to go, if I'm in Moscow, maybe I could go also to Lithuania and visit my mother. So they took me to my mother. As we were approaching closer and closer to the places we knew so well, retracing bits of past. I did not recognize the places. There were no trees when we left. We planted small seedlings all around, yes. And now the little seedlings had grown up into big, large trees. And there was Mama, and she was waiting. She was waiting for 25 years.
Susitikimas, tai sakė, buvo toks tylus, ramus.
Nejaukus. Gal net ne tai.
Tylos minutė tokie, ne dėl to, kad vienas kito, sakykime, ten nepažino ar tolinosi, bet toks ramybės tyluma, nežinau. Tokie susikaupimas, tokia apmąstymo gal ta tyluma, tokia ramybė.
Our home, our house was still there, and the cat met us.
Suvažiavo broliais, sesuo ten giminės suvažiavo.
Jono tėvui 20 metų jau buvo miręs, kai pirmą kartą atvažiavo.
51 mirė.
Aš baigiau vidurinę, 18 metų.
O man 24 jau buvo. Jie suvažiavo ir visi kaip jauni vaikai rateliu šoka. Ir žilvytį žaliuoja, kaip jaunystėj.
Čia kelios nuotraukos iš jų atvažiavimo ir ta nuotaika tai jau matosi. Adolfas tai mums pasirodė gyvesnis, toks humoristas, žmogus prie humoro. Jonas sėdi kažkur savose mintyse paskendęs, bet tik užgirs kažką įdomaus, kažką sukalbėjus. Iškart pagyvėja, iškart kamera.
Tautai neieška, visi Jona. Jona, karavulį ieškinajos.
My mother is telling about the terrible post-war years. And how every night for a year the police was waiting behind the house in the bushes for me to come home. They thought I was joining the partisans. For more than a year behind the bathhouse, the dogs used to bark every night, she said.
Istoriškai buvo labai sudėtingas laikas. Vokiečiai traukėsi, rusai atėjo. Yra pasakojusi bobutė, kad buvo įsivėlę į tą proklamacijų veiklą, kai anti-vokiečių proklamacijos spausdindavo mašinėlę. Pasirodydavo ir kitokios žinutės ir slėpė tą mašinėlę malkose. Ir kai jinai dingo, jau dėdė ir patarė, dėdė kunigas, jiem išvykti.
Net Adolfas nežinojo, kodėl reikia išvažiuoti. Tik tai Jonas pasakė, viskas, važiuoja.
My decision is to leave. If you want to criticize me for my lack of patriotism or courage, you can go to hell. I do not want any part of this war. This war is not mine. I am a poet.
False papers were made for us to go to the University of Vienna and study there. And there we went. The only thing was that we never got there. Germans directed our train towards Hamburg, and we ended in the slave camps of the Nazi Germany.
Tai žinoma tiek, sakykime, žinau tiek, kad kai išvažiavo Jonas su Adolfu,
Rusai atėjo.
Tai atėjo pas juos į namus, pas senelį su babutė ir klausė, kur jie yra. Ir kadangi jie, nežinojo jie, kur jie yra, tai išvedė visus gyvulius, sakė, sustatė visus vaikus, kiek jau ten, jeigu kuris buvo, ir senelius, ir tada visus gyvulius iššaudė. Iššaudė gyvulius, jau galvojo, kad ir juos nušaus.
One thing that people always forget about Jonas is that he's a survivor of one of the worst mass slaughters in human history. And even after the war, Jonas and Adolphus were lost in that mix of people who were trying to figure out how to get home. They were not welcome in Soviet-occupied Lithuania. They had to stay in a displaced persons camp for 4 years. And it's at this point that he begins to really develop as a poet. This is when he writes his idylls of Semenishke.
Einu aš vienas ir nusiminęs, ir plaukia aimanos man iš krūtinės.
Semeniškių idylės, tai ten atgyja visi semeniškiai, žinau. Ir perteikt poezijai kvapą, čia tobula.
Širdis vis rodos plyšta tarpus. Jis galvoju, Širdis vis rodos plyšta tarpus ir vis galvoju apie namus.
By the time I ended up in the forced labor camp, I only wanted to write. And my first poetry book was published in a very cheap way in displaced person camps.
Išėjau į kelią, pažiūrėt, ar žmonės nesugrįžta iš kelionės. Kelias bėgo tartum pienas, tik tai aš buvau vis vienas.
I got to know him through the book called Jonas Mekas Poetry, which was published in 1971, because previously in Lithuania his poetry wasn't permitted. I found the book in my parents' library.
Aš stovėjau ir žiūrėjau.
It sounded different than Lithuanian poetry I knew. The country really has a difficult history, which was a living trauma for the generation of Jonas Mekas. Jonas consolidated that historical experience of the country and its people and expressed it in this very personal way. Now that I speak, I suddenly realize that I was probably only a few years younger than Jonas himself when he started his journey away from Lithuania.
The darkness is falling beyond the windows. All the past is falling together. Just 2 lines from Jonas' poetry. What more do you want from me? I am a musician, I became a politician, participant of my nation's self-liberation from long-standing Soviet yoke. Jonas' world was a very painful one and full of miracles. It looks paradoxical. Jonas speaks about the most simple things, and then you understand that they are the most important. The element of past was especially important for Jonas, maybe as a representative of captive nation, which was torn out from reality, put into a cage of captivity. Who cannot understand it? Maybe those who have not been captive, enslaved, but those who don't have such experiences, maybe they lose something. That terrible chance to have such a painful experience.
The day I was leaving, it was raining. The airport was wet. It was sad. Oh, Mother, I hope the long, gray road will lead me soon home again.
Kreutzer Sonata, that's what I need. As I sit here in my editing room, splicing bits of my own past, putting all these pieces together, I'm looking at fragments of my and your life. These are my memories, the way I saw it when I was filming it. I'm talking to you, Hollis.
When I met Jonas, it wasn't like sparks and all of that, because that's not the way he was. He wasn't like a sparky person. He was like slow and really charismatic and powerful. He was 22 years older than me, and he was also Jonas Mekas, you know. And I was just a person who liked avant-garde film. But he really made me feel calm, and he really made me feel happy. I had seen Walden and Reminiscences, and I read Jonas's columns. It's like I had always known him. And he came and lived with me pretty quick. And he brought his editing table.
Hollis and me, the protagonist of this film, we decided to try to be like all the normal, serious people. We decided to get married. And there is the man of the minute. And Hollis's father. I can still feel the happiness of that summer, being in love. If there is beauty, that was beauty, my friend.
It was magical and fun. He was a very free spirit. Like, Jonas is one of the funniest people I have ever met. And yeah, he always had his camera with him. It was like his sidekick. And it makes that click. I love that click.
Well, Peter's standing now at his window with the fireworks going off all around him. Is the tiny figure of the post and the crowd.
What happened to you?
I meant to darken my hair, and it darkened it a little too much. Yeah, I meant to do dark brown, but it ended up being a little darker than that. I know. I have to fix that.
Development, a liberal economy, free market, human rights, respect for our neighbors, and respect for our partners all over the world.
The time now is stretched, according to Einstein.
To seize the problems and the opportunities of this ever-small planet we all call home. In short, if we want the story of the 21st century to be the triumph of peace and harmony, we must embrace our common humanity.
It's about 17 minutes to the end of this millennium. New Year's 1999, as the world is celebrating the new year. I am celebrating the last quarter of the 20th century. It seems I was filming my own childhood as I was filming your childhood, Una and Sebastian.
Formative years of being in front of a camera, it just became natural. I didn't love it or hate it. It was just totally normal. Up to a certain age, I think I was about 13 when I just started doing this and walking away. Because, 13, puberty, all of it, you're changing and you're just like, stop filming me, like just stop. Luckily, I had a younger brother, and then he ended up in all the films because he was smaller and didn't care.
If you've only grown up with a camera, if you grew up your whole childhood with that, you don't think anything funny or strange of it.
So I was aware that my birth was filmed. I didn't feel icky or weird about it. It was just something that was part of life.
As I was watching you that moment, I thought There cannot be anything more beautiful or more important on this earth.
1974 is a really monumental year. In 74, we got married, we had Una, and we moved into the loft in Soho.
I still have dreams about that place. The loft. The loft. I mean, that's what everybody called it. It was this big meeting space.
The long wooden table that we had in the house was a very busy space.
Every week or so, we had gatherings, just a few friends.
Filmmakers, painters, poets.
In the sunset, over Manhattan Isle, Newark was my birthplace, under the wing for a while. Green gas tanks of Kearney, smog brown in the west. In the lower east side, I'll go take my rest. I'm alone in the sky, where there's nothing to lose. The sun's not eternal, that's why there's the blues. Majestical jailhouse, our joys in the cage. Hearts full of hatred will outlast my old age.
There was always music in the house.
He had this group of Lithuanian friends, people he arrived with, and they would play these incredibly sad songs. All Lithuanian folk songs are sad, every single one of them.
It appears to be, I mean, it was a good life. It wasn't an idyllic life, but it was a good life. I mean, the struggles were really real, like money. An anthology film archive, it was a huge struggle.
Come in, Anthology Film Archive. This is where I sit and work. On this fragile little table to indicate the fragility of our existence and fragility of film that is falling to dust. Every minute as we are talking, films are falling to dust.
The idea of the Anthology Film Archive was that it will establish a repertory of avant-garde, independent, and classic cinema.
We have about 6,000 titles.
So that those who want to know more or less what has been achieved in cinema as an art could have some idea by seeing what we call the essential cinema collection.
The films that we show quite often, they are here.
Around 1970, 5 of us discussed and argued and prepared a list of essential cinema. And we began screening them on a repertory basis again and again. And we thought that will be our function. But that function changed soon because we discovered if we screen, we have to get the best possible prints. We discovered that the filmmaker died. Nobody knows where the originals are, or the originals are fading or shrinking, or falling to pieces. So we established a preservation department. And we did this out of necessity, not because we wanted to, but there was this need. We had to do it.
I love to come here and see if I could catch him and go downstairs and talk to him about new things in the archives. And I remember things he'd tell me like, oh, we found these Russian industrial films in the dumpster that I now want to catalog, like this excitement of like, what are they? Oh, they're footage of strange machinery and factories in the Soviet Union, you know, these kind of things. And we just found them. They've been thrown away. So we're seeing, should we include them in the archive, you know?
Film is fragile, and if you don't preserve it, it's gone. It's history. Every film is a kind of historical document of that particular story at that particular time. You know?
Eisenstein, the Russian, American, and the French, and the Germans. Some of those films are ecstatically beautiful. These are fragments of paradise. And I have to do everything to see that they don't disappear. This kind of obsession or craziness keeps me alive.
He had such a pure vision of avant-garde film and anthology and cinema. But when he bought the courthouse in '79, that was a really big leap.
For the Anthology Film Archive, you're struggling with a financial campaign to convert a magnificent building into
a courthouse building that has been closed for the last 10 years that we acquired from the city, and we will be transforming it into a film and video museum. We are now in the 72-seat theater.
They were redoing the whole interior. When Saturday Night Live asked me, would you make a 5-minute film? I asked Jonas if I could shoot here. He said, yeah, you can shoot here. I hope it's not disruptive that they'll be working around you, you know?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. Get away.
It took 10 years to get the courthouse to the place where we could open it. It took a lot of work.
Good morning. Good morning, Jonas. How are you this morning? Are we going to make a countdown?
12 days before we open. 5 days before the opening. 4 days before the opening.
We're the opening soon. I don't have the exact name. Here comes the man who's in charge of that.
2 days before the opening. 2 hours before the show. 40 minutes before the opening.
Anthology Film Archive.
Running Anthology was always a challenge.
The main headache is the fundraising.
Jonas knew a lot of people in the film world, in the art world, that he could call on for help when it was really needed, but it still wasn't easy. Jonas used to call it a cathedral of cinema. He used to say that there are angels. The anthology has a guardian angel. I have at times found that to be true. I have also at times found that to be a very impractical answer to the problems that we face.
Anthology was made by angels, and miracles, luck, and hard work.
He worked in the day at Anthology. He worked all the time.
Jonas worked more than any person I've ever known. He described his day. I go to the Anthology in the morning, and then I go home and I take care of the international correspondent. I have time with my family. And then I go into the editing room after midnight, and I stay in there as long as I can stay awake, usually 4 hours.
It's 5 minutes to 2 in the morning. The house is sleeping.
Yeah, when everyone else would go to bed, he would go to his editing room.
He was always really productive. But I mean, I was definitely a backseat to the work.
I'm not sure that I'm taping right now. See the light? A rose is a rose is a rose. Is it really?
And it was when I was around 9 that he got his first Sony video camera. He was very excited by the possibilities of video, the long takes, and shooting synchronized sound for the first time.
I want you to hear.
Are you pressing?
Yes.
And it says REC?
Yes.
Good, that means it's recording. I can see the red light going, so it's recording. So I'm drinking to your new book of poems, which is right here.
Wrong.
Uh-huh.
So that one's wrong.
Does it record the sound?
Of course, I will read a poem.
And then there's white
That tree said, I don't like that white car under me. It smells gasoline. You're a neurotic. You can see by the way
Woman is the conqueror.
you are bent over.
Super crap.
You can see by the way
You're in a rug. You can see by the way you're bent over.
you can see. Yeah, you're neurotic.
You can see by the way you're bent over. Now, I'll read it to you. You take me.
Yeah, that's a better idea.
That tree said, I don't like this white car under me. It smells gasoline. That other tree next to it said, you're always complaining. You're a neurotic. You can see by the way you're bent over. Get it?
That's one.
You're not even listening, Sebastian. You weren't giving me any attention at all. I'm a guest here. I deserve attention.
I seem to be making an inventory of your apartment.
Let's see.
I don't suppose you've done this yet, have you?
No.
Well, this might be interesting. So we entered the secret room.
It's my mother holding my father and my mother when they just got married.
Mm-hmm.
There was a moment when filmmakers really were not interested in working in video. It has a different set of qualities. It doesn't have that beauty of celluloid. Jonas embraced it. It was less about whether it was film versus video as what were you trying to do with the medium.
While I might not find them aesthetically pleasing, they are so brilliant in terms of portraiture.
Now I'm facing real disaster. He left.
Why? So what happened? This is the first night of...
He left me. He is out of love. He wants to be independent. I'm overshadowing. I have too much energy. I'm just too much, not just for him, for everybody. Generally, I'm too much. And I don't know how to be less. Or maybe...
I'm always deeply emotionally touched by his movies. And always discover beauty in it. And you really never know where it takes you to next second. Because it's always, every time you look at the movie, you discover something new, something surprising, and something true.
Those years in the 80s, 90s, he was doing so many things, balancing so many roles, wearing many hats, riding different horses, as they say. And he struggled at times to find time for his own work.
Jerry, maybe the only print actually is at a co-op. So you have to borrow from the filmmakers cooperative.
He weathered everything. I mean, he could have utter chaos spinning around him, and he would weather it, which was hard for the people around him, because chaos is really hard to deal with. I mean, especially when it's constant. Our whole life is so, like, just the film, anthology, this. And when you're married to someone who's a little bit famous, it's like you're an appendage. I decided after 30 years of that, I just needed to be me, be free.
Somewhere around this time, our protagonist's life collapsed. Suddenly, his life collapsed.
My parents were separated in the late 90s, but they still lived in the same place, just lived on opposite sides of the loft.
We got divorced in 2001. It wasn't until 2004 that we actually split, because neither of us had enough money to strike out and get their own place. We were like distant roommates. I mean, we were polite.
It was disappointing and sad, but at the same time, I knew that they would both be happier not living together. The biggest devastation was getting rid of the loft.
It's a lot of stuff to move. I would say that was the lowest point of our relationship, was moving, packing up all our stuff and moving out. It was hard.
Oh, this is...
That's your sake thing.
This is...
Yeah. Do you like reading books like this?
I use glass. Those glass cups. That song looks interesting. The secret strength of depression. I may read that one.
Metropolitan region, Dinah Washington died in the
I have to admit, I feel lost, or lost again. I have lost the sense why I'm here. I'm lost. I'm trying to find myself again. This damned questioning of myself all the time. Here I am, in this empty space, impregnated with 30 years of life, every wall, floor, ceiling, space itself,
There must be a lot of little atoms of myself, Holly, Sebastian, Una, attached to it somewhere, floating in the air, totally invisible. A glimpse of my new home.
I would spend a lot of time with Jonas, sometimes 3 nights a week.
Disappointed with humanity.
He needed a friend, and I think he saw me as he himself when he was my age, you know? When you're an immigrant, forever caught in that in-between space, it's intense because you essentially don't have any home. You never feel comfortable.
Anyone who knew him should have known how deep the traumas of his early life were in him. And the degree to which he refused to give in to them, and the degree to which he kept that invisible and allowed it to come out in the films only in the form of melancholy, not in the form of the extremity of loss and anger that I just saw in every gesture and every facial movement, you know. I mean, you know how clowns are the most tragic figures. Well, Jonas worked very hard at being a clown for other people.
Here I am on February 6th. Here is my room, my table, my glass of wine, and here is me, by myself. Here is my hand, here is my face, my hair, my heart. Here is my heart, somewhere there. Here I am, me. Me? Where is me? What is me? What was my life all about? Do I still have time to do something about my life? I really don't know. God, angels, help me. Help. I have nobody but this camera. This camera. This camera. I threw it on the floor. I picked it up, and it still works. This piece of metal here in front of me is my only friend. So here I am. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Yeah, I don't know why I'm taping this, but I'm taping it. That's my life. It's 2:10 after midnight. I can't sleep. The music is so... I can't sleep. I can't sleep. I can't sleep, but the music is so beautiful.
One of the ways my father dealt with the ending of that part of his life was to make, as I was moving ahead, I saw brief glimpses of beauty.
When I began now to put all these rolls of film together, I just put them together by chance, the way that I found them on the shelf. Because I really don't know where any piece of my life really belongs.
Yeah, no, this is one of my favorite films to watch. This goes back to what he was doing in 16mm. Walden is diaries, notes, and sketches, and they're all sort of stitched together.
My film making saves me. It saves me. I don't know what I would do. So some light, some sun in my life. There are moments that I fall into those kinds of moods, moments that don't last very long, but I'm very miserable when those moments come. But I'm out of it. Out of it. Hey, what are you doing there?
The Dublin-based composer,
Get up.
who is also the leader of the Crash Ensemble, which, Crash is I guess, kind of analogous in Dublin.
You're going somewhere. It's going nowhere. That symbolizes our own human blindness when we think we are going somewhere, but we are going nowhere.
He was very sad about parting way with, Hollis. But what came out is a 365-day project, which is about celebration of life for that 1 year.
365-day project. That was one of the most challenging I made a film every day, a film between 5 to 10 minutes long. Came to 38 hours of finished film, which is no joke.
It's one of his greatest creation of the late years.
I'm not going to do the dishes tomorrow.
Should I leave this just an empty day, under which Saint Mary appeared?
December 23rd, 2007. It's a very special night because it's alignment of planets, 9, I believe, and the winter solstice that we're just kind of coming out of, and full moon, and your birthday.
That was the time also when my father started to get very interested and very busy with exhibitions and showing his work in new ways.
There is sound coming from different installations.
It was all very exciting.
Jonas blossomed. He was celebrated all over the world. I don't know whether that would have happened if we had stayed together.
Hello, Mr. Mekas. I'm writing a book about you. It's my PhD.
Yeah.
It's all about the life work of Jonas Mekas.
Sorry you had to do so much work.
He recreated a new Jonas. Never before you have encountered an artist with that incredible new discovered energy. The pain creates the titanic energy. Profound tragedy in life, also energy. You depend how you turn that into the energy.
This is like a new premiere of Jonas Mekas as a personality. More and more Jonas films came into gallery and museums. And the format of presenting them in the gallery had to be invented because some of these films are very long. Some of them are quite short. He was a curator himself who knew how to construct a narrative not only in a piece of poetry or a film, but also in a film program, you know, in a festival.
I don't know if we would have independent cinema if it wasn't for Jonas Mekas.
We're deeply honored to present Jonas Mekas with this Lifetime Achievement Award.
When you think about the artist in the late years, it's about that incredible last breath of mortality. And I think Jonas knew that. It was fleeting.
I've referred to him as being a kind of poetic equivalent of a kung fu master. And I once talked with Jonas about this, that maybe the secret of the universe is don't go against the grain. Learn how things flow and don't have to hit against them. The flow of energy and of life and expression, ideas, is something very mysterious and magical.
Jonas created a sort of new art, which is more than film. The art of being in a creative joy.
Sebastian, I lived with him the last, 8 years. He worked with him, he traveled with him. He took care of him when he was sick. It was so beautiful.
My father was getting older. And it was also nice, I found sort of a new relationship with my father. Very different from when I was a teenager, so we certainly became even closer and more like friends. We would travel together. go dancing.
My father, I guess I told him that I was pregnant, and he didn't really, he wasn't boisterous about it, but he was very happy. And I'm just glad he got to meet her.
Oh, look. She can play it. Ah. Oh, very good. More. A duet.
She doesn't film it, so she doesn't want to do it anymore.
Okay, and then I'm not going to film.
Okay.
He was uniquely fit for catching people in their moments.
It's all little daily scenes, personal little celebrations, joys, and miracles. The little moments of paradise that are here now. Next moment, maybe they are gone.
I didn't get to go through all of those yet.
Also,
I think there's one on the back. I'm almost done. I'm missing one box of Christmas decorations that I can see.
I know where they are.
Let me label really quickly what.
And put it there. Whatever you want to take.
Oh, my comic books! You found my comic books! I've been looking for these since you moved out of the loft.
It's a beautiful thing to be able to see your family life through somebody else's eyes, and not everybody gets that. So I'm super grateful.
Oh, Una, let the images run. Let the images run. Very little of what you see, you remember.
He talks about those fragments of paradise. And it's how I live my life. Like, no matter how bad stuff is, you can always find just a little fragment. And that's what the diary film is like sharing these intimate things from his heart and his soul and the poetry. It's poetry in film.
I did it. I managed to catch some of the beauty, some of the happiness. That's all I care, to catch some of the beauty around. And it's there. It's there. I did it. And I'm happy.